Now in this lesson on Pythagoras' theorem, we are going to be looking at finding the hypotenuse. Now Pythagoras' theorem is that in any right-angled triangle, and there's an example of a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the two smaller sides. Now that word hypotenuse, okay, indicates the longest side in a right-angled triangle. And if we consider where the right angle is, the hypotenuse is always directly opposite that. Now let's consider this right-angled triangle. We'll label the hypotenuse as C and the two smaller sides A and B. And Pythagoras' theorem states that C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Excellent. Let's look at some examples now. We're asked to find X. Now we can see that X is the longest side in this right-angled triangle. It's the hypotenuse. So we start by saying X squared equals, and the two shorter sides are 4 and 3. So we write that it equals 4 squared plus 3 squared. Now X squared equals, write that down, 4 squared plus 3 squared. Well, 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9. So adding the two together we get 25. Our next line, X squared equals 25. Have a think of that. What number squared makes 25? Well, you may already know it's 5, and if so, you can write the answer. Otherwise, what we do is take the square root. If we're not sure, we take the square root. X equals the square root of 25, and as we said, ends up being that X equals 5. Terrific. Second example, we're asked to find M. Again, we have a right-angled triangle, and M is the longest side. Okay, it's known as the hypotenuse. So we start with that. M squared equals the two shorter sides, 5 and 12. So we write 5 squared plus 12 squared. Okay, it doesn't matter what order we write that. We could have written 12 squared plus 5 squared. There's no problems with that. So M squared equals, now 5 squared plus 12 squared. Well, 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. So if we add the two together, we get 169. Now as before, we have M squared equals 169. The opposite of squaring is to take the square root. So if we do that, we get that M equals the square root of 169, and that works out to be that M equals 13.